We have Alissa Crabtree, and she's going to be talking the corporate mic drop. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, well, maybe I'm not a speaker. Well, if you're training, you're still a speaker. If you're doing workshops, you're still a speaker. These aren't just things that you can do. It's one of your opportunities. It's one of the ways you can get into some of these organizations that will take you into the deeper work. So, speaking, if that's not your front model, that's okay. But it is a really great way to get more people to want to see your information, to then say, hey, what's next? How do I take you home with me? Those kinds of things. And so Alyssa's going to be talking about how to turn your signature talk into corporate leads, contracts, and repeat business. So Alissa Crabtree is a former educator with over 17 years of experience, empowers small business owners to become better educators through the power of speaking. As founder of the Crabtree Coaching Collaborative, Alissa helps entrepreneurs craft captivating content, deliver impactful speeches, and position themselves as trusted experts so they never have to sell. So we went from learning to sell that doesn't feel salesy to even more of that. So I'm really excited to have Alissa here. Let me go ahead and spotlight you.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you
Erin.
for being here.
Thank you so much. Like, this has been such a great summit so far, like total nuggets of wealth that you have all provided. You and Jay have put on an amazing event so far.
Thank you so much. Well, it's your turn to give way more amazing content. Thank
I
you.
love it. Thank you, everyone. So, before we dive into the good stuff, I have to start by telling you all I have donut trauma. And I don't mean this by like, oh, I've eaten so much donuts in my life, like I made myself sick. What I mean is, when I first started my business about 6 years ago, I spent hours filling out RFPs just to go out into the void, like just praying someone would call me back. Like, will this RFP get accepted? And then I was like, okay, I just have to get in front of people. If people talk to me, I know that they'll buy from me. So I went and ordered donuts every single morning, and I started delivering them organization to organization, just thinking someone was going to take the bait. But I would always get caught by the gatekeeper. You know what I mean? And the administrative assistant would take the donuts and be like, oh my goodness, these are so good. Thank you so much. I will, take your card, and I will get the decision maker to call you whenever they have a chance. How many decision makers do you think called me back after delivering those donuts? Let's see. Put it in the chat. How many do you think? Zero. Zero, zero, zero. That's right, Lisa. Zero people called me back. And I was defeated. I had a few clients, but I didn't have enough. And I was like, oh my gosh, no one's responding to my RFPs. Like, I think Erin mentioned earlier, it takes 9 months for most corporate contracts to go through, like for people to be an approved vendor. And I was like, I don't have 9 months. I needed clients yesterday. So it wasn't until I decided to invest in an exhibitor slot that came with a speaking slot that I was like, okay, here we go. I'm going to invest in this. During the exhibit time, people were coming to me, like they were talking a little bit. They were kind of being nice. Really, they were just in there for the free stuff. And then I take the stage. So I have a 20-minute speaking slot. And when I am done, I kid you not, people were lining up and following me back to my booth. I left that day with an $80,000 contract. An $80,000 contract from speaking. Who wants those types of results? Put like a me in the chat. If that is the type of result that you want, I should see those me's coming in, because that's why you're here, right? You want those contracts so that you can get more business and more clients. But here's the bad news, and I'm here to tell you right now, and I'm going to start it off high, now we're kind of going low. There's the 9% edge. 91% of businesses do not make it past the 10-year mark. 91%. That means only 9% of businesses make it past the 10-year mark, because the 91% are dropping out due to lack of profitability, lack of cash flow, lack of client acquisition. I don't want that to happen to you, right? And do not want that to happen to you. So you have to ask yourself, in a crowded marketplace, how do you set yourself apart from everyone else? Someone came on earlier and asked, hey, I've called I've emailed, I'm not getting any response. So what is it that I need to do? Here's what you need to do. You have to have a visibility plan. Visibility is the key to unlocking longevity and profitability in your business. People cannot buy from you if they do not know that you exist. That's the big key right here. If they do not know that you exist, they cannot buy from you. And yes, you can fill out RFPs, you can send proposals, you can email and cold call. However, the true key to unlocking that longevity and profitability in your visibility plan is speaking. Speaking in front of your ideal clients, not only because it's going to save you time, because it's one to many instead of one to one, it is going to be the biggest builder in building trust and authority. Laura talked about that earlier, and that connection so that you are getting those clients to say yes to you. So who wants to be a 9%er? Put 9 in the chat. Put a 9. If you want to make it past that 10-year mark, get those clients, have profitability and longevity. Yes. Yes, Roger. Yes, Ilka. Yes, Marsha. Yes, Adina. Yes. We are here. You're going to start taking the stage so that you can get those corporate clients. Now, I have some controversy, a little controversial statement here. I live in Texas and I grew up on a farm here in Texas. And here's something that was really hard for my family to stomach. I don't like hamburgers. I'm not a big meat eater, really. Like, honestly, I'm not a big fan of meat, but it's pretty controversial here in good old Texas not to like hamburgers. And, I like a mushroom burger, sometimes like that, like a portobello burger, maybe a vegan burger. But I want you to prove me wrong. Where can I find the best burger? Drop it in the chat. Where would you say the best burger exists? In New York? Kincaid's in Fort Worth? Oh, I've never been to Kincaid's, but I've been to Fort Worth plenty of times. You don't eat home either? Ilka, I'm coming over. You're going to make me a wonderful hamburger, famous hamburger. Let me tell you right now, guys, you're going to be disappointed. McDonald's sells the most hamburgers in all the land. McDonald's, this is not a big surprise to you, I am sure, but it's not even the best burger. Like I even joke, it's not even real meat. But they still sell the most hamburgers every single day. 6.5 million burgers every single day. No one in here put McDonald's, but they still sell the most. And why is it? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the secret is not in the sauce. The secret is that they are not a secret. That's the kicker. We totally recognize those golden arches. We see them everywhere. They are everywhere. Everyone here at the Corporate Speaker Summit, you need to be more visible. It's not about, are you the best in your field? And you think there are tons of coaches and consultants out there pitching to corporates. And there are tons of RFPs that they receive all the time. So many proposals that they are receiving. How are you going to stand out? You cannot be a secret. So I want you to picture it right now. No more cold calling. I'm not saying that cold calling is not a good thing, like you shouldn't have to do it, but I know in a lot of us, we're just like, oh, I don't want to cold call. I get that, but picture not having to do it as much. Picture it that you're positioned as an authority. When someone immediately thinks of your niche, your face pops up, like they're thinking of your name. Corporations want to hire you. You are being recommended. Erin mentioned earlier, she spoke at one event and someone was like, oh my gosh, this was so great. Now we need you here. And that would be tremendous for so many of us to be recommended over and over again. Imagine growing your business, making more money, getting more contracts. Who would want that? Put a me in the chat. That's what you want. Let's see those me's. Me. Yes, yes, yes. Guys, we have to have purposeful visibility. Purposeful visibility, purposeful speaking. And let's get real for a second. We've talked about this a little bit today, but what happens when we normally take the stage? A lot of us will get on stage And, we give this great speech. People are telling us, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. You just were hilarious. That was wonderful. I can't wait to hear you again. Maybe you get a few chats afterwards, exchange a few business cards. People take pictures, put you on social media. But then when it comes to getting new clients, crickets, like nothing. Nothing. How many has had that happen to before? Put a me if that's happened to you before. I know it happened to me. When I first started speaking to grow my business, I was like, people would tell me I'm good, but they're not buying. Let me tell you right now, the measure of a great talk is not measured by applause, it's measured by credit cards. How many contracts are you signing? How many just bypass the vendor approval and just automatically get hired within those corporations? So we want to get booked with decision makers and make more money. So we have to have a purposeful talk. I'm going to show you how to do that so that your talk actually converts. So when you are in front of those decision makers, it is a no-brainer. It's like, yes, I have to hire them. I have to hire Mike. I have to hire Ilka. I have to hire Marsha. Like, it is a no-brainer. We want to be those 9%ers. So I'm going to start by telling you the do's and don'ts that you need to really understand to have a talk that converts. So take a screenshot of this, get your notes ready, type it in the chat, whatever's going to help you. But here are the do's and don'ts when it comes to crafting a talk that's going to convert. The very first thing, start with a relatable hook. Something that's going to draw people in. Do not start with your bio. We've even talked about this earlier today about, that credibility factor. One of my clients, her name is Lorinda Cologne, and she is an executive leadership coach. She's a #1 best-selling author. She has been an executive leader for over 30 years in the medical field. Like, I'm talking about PhDs, all the acronyms that go after a name. Her list of credentials is astounding. But after working with me in my Spark to Scale program, where I help her craft a masterclass, we were going through and I noticed that she was always starting her masterclass with her credentials. And the people on that Zoom during her masterclass were zoning out. They were not interested. They were like doing other things. Some of them were like, okay. So we switched it and we changed her introduction. Instead of her going through all of her credentials, she started telling a story about a time that she led her entire medical staff in the middle of a hurricane. Total transformation. Total transformation. People started engaging more. Their jaws dropped. They were like, oh my gosh, Lorinda knows what she's talking about when it comes to leadership. If she can lead in the midst of a tragic hurricane, she can do anything. Like, that right there is the difference between starting with your bio and starting with a story. Now, you do want to structure your talk around 1 to key takeaways that really highlight the pain and how you can solve it. You do not want to overload your audience with 15 different ideas, takeaways, strategies, because you're going to overwhelm them. As a former educator who taught 8th grade writing, let me tell you, if we can keep 8th graders engaged, we can keep anyone engaged. But I knew if I overtaught, if I overexplained for those 8th graders, they were out. They'd be like, Miss, we're done with you. Those 8th graders are the same as adults. That if we overteach, they're not going to learn anything. And so you want to focus and structure your talk around 1 to 3 key takeaways. That is it. And I get it, guys. You're passionate. You're really passionate about your topics. I know this. I know this in my heart. However, you cannot overwhelm your audience. As much as you want to share, you don't want to do that. All right. So the third, speak to your audience's pain. Speak to their pain. Describe the pain that they are experiencing. Tell stories, incorporate stories that highlight the pain. Use analogies, metaphors that explain the pain. Speak to the problem that they are currently facing. Do not make it about you. make it about them. What was it Erin said? She said the 80-20 rule, like 20% about you, 80% about them and the pain that they are experiencing. And oftentimes I will get clients, I'll be like, but Alissa, these stories that you're having me come up with, they happened to me. Yes, they did happen to you, but you're going to make it about them. Now, here's something that I want you to write down right now, and this is extremely important when it comes to any content that you're creating in your signature talk, newsletters, social media, whatever. The person who can describe the pain the best is perceived as the person who can solve the problem. The person who can describe the pain the best is the one perceived as the one who can solve the problem the best. That's huge, guys. And if you're not speaking directly to their pain, if you're not helping them see themselves in the problem and that you are the solution to that problem, they're not going to remember you. They're not going to sign up for your services. You have to show them that you know exactly what it is that they are experiencing. So when I work my clients through this my different programs, like, we always start with perspective. Like, what is it that you can see that everyone else cannot yet see? We talk about positioning and presence and perspective transfer. And so take a screenshot of this framework when it comes to selling from the stage, pitching your services, getting those corporate contracts. But because of time today, we only have time to focus on the first one, and that is perspective. We want to see what others cannot yet see and reframe that struggle into insight. That's the kicker that we want to do in every single signature talk. So I want you to write down real quick, just kind of in your notes somewhere, jot this down. But what is your unique perspective? Like, why are you the one to solve this problem? What is it that you now know that everyone else doesn't know? Like, really start thinking about that, because that's going to help us here in a second when we craft our core premise. And as a former educator, it was ingrained in me always, before you start a lesson plan, you begin with the end in mind. The same is true for crafting a signature talk. Like, you really have to understand, like, what is your offer? What are you pitching at the end of the talk? What are you weaving throughout? What is the big problem that you solve? And from that, you're going to develop a core premise statement. I want you to think of it as your thesis statement for your signature talk. What is the one thing you are trying to prove? And you could even ask yourself this: what is the one thing that people need to believe about themselves, about the problem, before opting into your offer? So, to help you out here, because we're going to write a core premise statement here in a second, I'm going to get you started with your signature talks. I want you to think of the big three. People are drawn to anything that can solve an issue around money, around time, around growth or results. Like, those are the big three. Remember, people buy out of necessity. They're in survival mode. Corporations are going to hire you because they're in survival mode. They need a problem that needs fixing. More than likely, it centers around one of these three. So I'm going to show you some examples of core premise statements that I have used with my clients. The first one is mine. Like, as a speaker strategist, I always tell corporations, like, the best strategy in the world cannot produce results if your leaders cannot communicate it in a way employees understand it, believe it, and act on. That's the one thing that when I'm speaking to corporations, that's the one thing that I'm trying to prove throughout the entire talk. I don't deviate from the core premise. This is the one thing that I am going to prove, and this has helped me get contracts with oil and gas companies here in Texas. What is your core premise statement? The one thing that you want to prove. Now, I also work with a lot of leadership coaches. And so one of my leadership coaches in my Stage Ready in 6 program, we came up with this core premise statement. Your company does not have a talent problem. It has a leadership develop problem that is costing you productivity, retention, and revenue. Guys, right there, the entire talk is proving how their leadership is costing them money, retention, time. Like that's all that she's proving. I also work with another client. She is an executive leadership coach, but she primarily works with people, with women that are between 40 and 50 years old on what she calls promotion shock. So they receive a promotion and then it's like, oh crap, what do I do? Like, now I have imposter syndrome because I have this promotion. I don't know what to do. So in her signature talk, her core premise is a promotion does not automatically prepare someone to leave. Without support, new managers waste time second guessing decisions, avoiding conversations, and reacting to preventable problems. That's her core premise. And so, as I'm going to go through the next two, but I want you to start crafting your own core premise statement that you would pitch to a corporation. What is the core premise statement that you would pitch in your signature talk to your corporation? So here's another one. When leaders lack confidence, decisions slow down, employees wait for direction, and valuable time is lost seeking unnecessary approval. This one really hits on wasted time. Core premise statement, that's their signature talk. Everything's going to center around this one. Another example, one of my clients is a menopause coach. She helps women who are going through perimenopause and menopause. And recently, she has started to venture in the area of like, I now want to go to corporations, host workshops, health and development for different corporations in the Houston area. So here's her core premise statement, and this is the center of her signature talk when she goes to different corporations and conferences where those decision makers are sitting. When experienced women leave the workforce because menopause support is missing, companies lose leadership talent, institutional knowledge, and the money invested in developing them. Guys, this is gold for her because a lot of those decision makers, one, maybe menopause wasn't on the forefront of their brains like it is for a lot of us, but she's showing them that when your women are not supported and they are going through menopause, you're losing money, buddy. And that is what she's improving. That is what she is proving her entire talk. So let me see inside the chat, what would be your core premise statement? Again, your thesis statement for your signature talk. Give you about 1 minute to type that in the chat. I love that, Laura. Boring keeps you broke, presence gets you paid. And that's so true, and that's so universal. Adina, I like this. I want you to expand on that. Solve pain on deficiencies. Give me more. Give me more on this. Dr. Ruby, you do not have to give up your dream with a job. I like this. This is a great start, Dr. Ruby. Now, what I want you to do is beef it up by focusing on one of the big three. Is it time? Is it money? Is it growth? I would guess that yours is growth and results, but I want you to be more specific. How can they keep the dream and still have whatever it is that they're dependent on? Avoid decision drift by having shared understanding. This is great, Frida. I also want you to think, what is the cost of decision drift? When you stay in decision drift, what happens? That's going to be the gold there for you. Bill, our inner voices can silently sabotage your people's success, happiness, and fulfillment. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Love this one. Tara, potential of the individual and the corporation remain untapped unless individuals and teams are, oh no, it went away, are taught how to harness the power of wardrobe and image. Yes, Tara. Oh, I see. You're a certified image consultant. And I love how she prefaces like potential of the individual and the corporation remain untapped. Now, I want you to kind of maybe expand on that. What do you mean untapped? Like, are they going to lose money? Are they going to lose talent? Are they going to lose promotions? Like, we could really play with this, and it depends on who's in your audience. Sunita, when your leaders don't realize their communication problems, the whole team loses time, energy, and attention, getting lost trying figuring out what their leaders want. Yes, beautiful. Dina, time and money by solving their staff account. That's right. You were the one working with accounting. So staff accounting deficiencies. Yeah, and girl, that right there is a loss of money. That's going to hit them where it hurts, and you want to pull out that pain. Love this, guys. You are on a great track. Great track. I want you to play with it. And even though you have one right now, doesn't mean that you got to keep this concrete set in stone every single time. This is a great starting place. And once you start crafting the rest of your signature talk, everything centers around this core premise statement. You do not deviate from it. You describe the problem. That's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Now, you have your core premise statement. You have a start of one. So we're going to take it a little higher now and get you started with your signature talk, all right? And we're going to talk about storytelling. Storytelling is powerful. If you want to demonstrate your credentials, storytelling. If you want to solidify a complex idea, storytelling. If you want to re-engage your audience, storytelling. But oftentimes when my clients come to me, they're like, Alissa, I have no stories. I think it was Debbie's recording just a second ago when she was talking about keynote speakers, and she was like, well, I can't top that story. I didn't survive a plane crash in the Amazon jungle. Like, we get that. You don't have to have some big traumatic story to gain people's attention. Please know that. What you want to do, and this is what's really going to get their attention, is if it's a relatable story. If it's not a relatable story, so I'm thinking about the plane crash in the Amazon, guys, if I hear that story, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, that's wild and crazy. But I'm also going to be like, this talk doesn't apply to me because I've never been in a plane crash in the Amazon. You want a relatable story that gets their attention. And so, how do we create relatable stories? I'm going to take you through an activity that I actually took my 8th graders through to help them pull out stories. Like I said, if we can get 8th graders engaged, we can get 8th graders writing, we can get anyone writing, right? So, I want you to get your fingers ready. You're going to be typing in the chat for me. We're going to be brainstorming some stories here. So, I want you to write about a time you were truly scared. The one that comes to mind, especially when I think of my core premise statement. I had a business. I was a year in. I had a few clients, but not enough. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to feed my family. This business is going to fail. Everyone is going to think I was a joke. I mean, they thought I was crazy for leaving my regular work schedule. I say 9 to 5. It was more like a 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. work job. They thought I was crazy, and I'm about to lose everything. I was terrified. Now, I could also think of stories when I was in the education space and I coached leaders. I was a leadership coach in education, and we are losing. We're slowly declining in test scores. We're slowly declining in teacher initiative and teacher efficacy. And we're about to just combust and have a state takeover type situation. Like, those are moments when I was scared. Write about a time you were truly scared. I want to see it in the chat. Oh, Frida, reduced project and lost revenue by creating the share. Oh, that was your core premise statement. Frida, you're low on funds and cannot meet your monthly expenses. You're scared. And I love this because, one, I commiserate with you. I think we all do in here. We've had those ups and downs in businesses. One, you're going to start speaking. You're going to get in front of people. You're going to get those speaking gigs so that people can hire you. That's how you're going to get your funds. But this is a great story to start off with. People can relate to this story. When I was a single mom, I worried how we'll keep going. Oh, Ilka, yes. And I know, Ilka, you work with people on root cause. And so, like, really thinking of where do those fears come from? How can you get past the hurdle? Like, this is a beautiful story to start off with. And no, not everyone in your audience is going to be a single mom and worried how they're going to do this, but they've all faced problems before. And they've all been like, how am I going to get this to go through? That's how you make it about them. Kathy, I was really scared when I was hired by the UN to create and implement an expert group meeting to determine global policy on women's issues. What an elephant to tame. Yes, what an elephant to tame. That is for sure. And really, I don't remember, Kathy, what your core premise statement is, but I could see so many things coming out of this if you're relating it to your core premise in a sense of, gosh, where the heck do I even start? How do I organize this? Who do I need on my team? Like, there are so many golden examples and I guess morals of the story that can come from this. Um, okay, Bill, I'm about to walk into the biggest sales training assignment of my life, a 3-day program with the ticket sales department of the 6-time world champion Chicago Bulls. And I froze in the parking lot from imposter syndrome. Bill, again, this is such a relatable story. And it comes to mind the movie Dirty Dancing when she's like, I carried a watermelon. Like, you kind of freeze. People ask you, for your pitch, and you're like, haha, I don't know. This is a relatable story to start your hook. And I promise you, this is so much more engaging of a story than if you just started with your bio. This kind of story is going to get people leaning in. Love this, guys. All right, I'm going to give you another writing prompt. Write about a time you were frustrated. This time, I want you to really tie it in to your core premise statement. Again, I help people with speaking and growing their business through speaking. So if I'm thinking of a time I was frustrated and I want to prove that speaking is the fastest path to cash, you have to, especially if I'm with the corporation and the corporation is, hey, you need to be a solid communicator to get your team to do anything. And I'm thinking of a time I was frustrated. It could be something as small as I have a 10-year-old daughter and I'm tired of her rolling her eyes at me all the time. So I got to step up my communication skills and have a solid pact with my kid. It could be something as simple and silly as that. Or it could be a story about a time that I was leading principals and I knew that, they kept bucking the system. They didn't want to do what I was coaching them to do. They didn't want to do this. And it wasn't until I was able to clearly communicate the consequences that they started coming in line. That can be a frustration story that I tell. When was a time that you were frustrated? And try to tie it into your core premise. Oh, Marcia, yes. Frustrated with the dismissal of women's health issues and hormones in the healthcare system, leaving them feeling lost and desperate for answers. Yes, 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 Marcia. And I would even start, I wouldn't start with, I'm frustrated with this. You might just start by talking about, like, I'm sitting in my living room, this new policy comes across my desk, and I just start screaming. Like, given the good cup of tea and then tell them for years I've seen the decline in women's health and go from there. Love this. Tara, pre-image training. I had an event to go to and had gained weight. I tried on 20 things before I found something that fit. Went to the event and still didn't feel great. Right there, Tara, that is a winning story for you. A winning story because you start here. How many women and men feel self-conscious in the clothes that they need to wear to look the part, to look elevated. It feels uncomfortable. You don't feel like you look good in it. All of this, this is a great story. This is a gold story for you. Sunita, I wasn't getting clients, and current clients were getting what they needed and leaving our work, and I realized my income was dropping. I need more clients and a new way to find them. I had to figure out the best way to communicate and connect with the people I was next meant to help and work with. Beautiful. And I mean, that's a huge frustration. It's also a scare, right? Dr. Ruby, a time when I was really frustrated. You had a supervisor who would not provide me with data needed for a DC briefing. I was unable to take needed leave until I could find the needed information and complete the briefing. Yeah, just missing information and people not willing to communicate the information that was needed, that you needed right then and there. Siobhan, frustrated at my 9 to 5 because my new CEO was micromanaging me and would not accept my boundaries. So I got laid off. Yeah, Siobhan, yes, I'm so sorry about that, first of all. But this is a familiar story, right? Like, this is a great story to start with. All of these, my friends, are 100 times better starting your talk like this rather than starting with your bio. And they highlight the pain. They highlight the pain. Corporations want to know that you can solve their problem. So if you can paint a picture of the problem, and then you're going to take them even deeper, give them some more metaphors, give them some analogies, this is going to help them say yes to you in the future. All right, one more. Write about a time you were lost. And this can be physically lost. I like to tell a story a lot of times about, I grew up in the age of MapQuest. Like, I didn't have a GPS system. I didn't have my phone. Smartphones were not a thing. And so, like, I would go to MapQuest, print out, my directions, got lost in downtown Dallas in the middle of the night. I was like, couldn't even read it. I like to tell that story. But you could also tell stories about just when you might have been lost in life, kind of like metaphorically lost. Let's drop them in the chat. What do you got? Laura, yep, lost a skill how to fold a physical map. One, I never really had that skill. I always sucked at it, but yes. Um, Give it about 30 more seconds. Let's have some more stories. Oh my gosh, Bill. And you didn't just lose yourself, you lost 20 other people. Y'all were all lost. Uh, this could be a hilarious story just to break the ice. And here's something I want you all to know. Anytime that I've pitched to a corporate, especially when I first started pitching to corporations, I was really nervous and I was like, "Oh my gosh, these are like businessmen and women and they're just so intimidating." Guys, they're humans. They are humans. They don't need something boring and drawn out. Just because you're pitching to a corporation doesn't mean you have to be stoic and boring. They want to see personality because if they're about to sign a 3-year contract with you, they want to know that you're a good hang, right? Like, you're going to be someone that they want to go spend time with, especially if I'm going to spend time with her for 3 years. And so add personality. Don't feel like you have to be so polished and poised. Laura talked about that earlier. Perfection is not the game. It's not about performance, it's about presence. Be human. Love this, guys. All right, last story before we move on. I want you to write about a time you thought never again. I am never going to do that. I will tell you a time when I thought never again was when I started my business and I was delivering donuts, begging to get clients. I will no longer do that. I will no longer feel like I need to work 1-to-1 and spend all of that time and all of that energy and all of that money when I can grow a business using a one-to-many strategy. So never again will I be delivering donuts. Ooh, Marsha, work a walk-in clinic during a pandemic. Yes, yes, never again. Mike, getting lost in Sears at 5 years old and escaping from a huge man. Oh my gosh. Led me to become a self-defense instructor. Mike, that is such a powerful story, especially, I don't know if you're selling classes, you're trying to promote the business for self-defense, but this is a one terrifying story. But it is a reality, it is relatable, and it is something that would connect to so many people. Jumping in a lake in late October from a rowboat wearing a full suit and heels and carrying a laptop. Okay. Okay, I love that. Bill, drinking diet ginger ale before a very bumpy helicopter ride. Nope, never again. Never again will I work in a clinic for a hospital that sees clients' patients as metric numbers. Ooh, Sunita, yes. Because then it is. It's like herding cattle and no one's happy. Never take advice from anyone, especially on a subject they have no clue. Yes. And Ilka, I get it. Like outside perspectives are good sometimes, but then if someone has zero clue about what it is, yeah, don't take that advice. Um, Aaron thought I would never recover from that $65,000 in an in-person event. Okay, so Aaron, maybe I missed this. Did you pay 65,000 or did you get 65,000? Like that's a big difference.
No, I lost it because the contract wasn't written right. The lady signed off on things when I was doing an in-person event. And I thought, oh my God, I would never want anyone to know this. But then it became a story about how I bounced back, how within 2 months I was able to do that, plus some, and all these things. And it got me indoors during COVID, because this is right before COVID hit, got me indoors with the biggest event planners in the planet. So that failure actually became a success.
And Aaron, that's the type of story that gets me. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. That story right there is like, oh my gosh, I want to talk more about to her. Like, I got to know more. I got to know how she did it. That is the story. That's gold right there. Like literal gold. Love this, guys. All right, so we have our core premise statement. You guys have a brain dump of some possible stories. Your job is to experiment with those stories. Here's the cool thing. You don't have to write a signature talk right now. I want you to go on social media and post about these stories. Turn them into your core premise statement. Get people engaged with your stories. This is what is going to get people leaning in, not your credentials. And anytime that you share a story, I want you to use this acronym. I want you to remember the mess because sometimes we get a little too lost in the weeds in our own storytelling. For time purposes, we're not going to dive too deep into this. I just want you to take a screenshot, but this is how you're always going to tell your stories. Everyone loves a good cup of tea, right? Like we like the drama, so that's where you're going to start. You're always going to start with the moment, the most intense, high drama moment. And then you're going to explain the emotions. How are you feeling? Even my palms were sweaty, my heart was racing. Really get into those emotions. The struggle, what was the challenge and the real challenge? And then finally, the solution, the shift. What success or failure did you experience, and what is it that you now know? Anytime that you tell a story, my friends, I want you to use MESS framework to tell your story. And always remember, make it about them. Really hone in on Aaron's rule of 80-20. 80% about them, 80% of the people sitting in that boardroom or in that conference center that you're speaking to. 80% it's about them, 20% it's about you. And so how many of you in here, I want you to give me a 9 again. If you want to be a 9%er, you're ready to get those corporate contracts. You're ready to start speaking. Yes, Frida. And that's what we want to make more money, Tara. Yes. Ilka, yes, we want to be those 9%ers. Roger, yes, we want to be a 9%er. We want to get those corporate contracts. I want you speaking. That's my biggest thing right now. I want you speaking, going to those places where the decision makers are hanging out and I want you to speak. So this next part is for those of you who are like really thinking like, okay, I'm ready to stop playing small. I'm ready to stop going from contract to contract and really make some money. Like I'm ready to make some money. Maybe you're thinking like, okay, I know that I want to speak. I know that I want to go to networking events where these corporations and corporate leaders are hanging out, but I don't know how to clarify what I do. I don't know, like anytime that I'm talking to someone and I tell them what I do, they're like, "Oh, that's nice." Like, cool for you. Like really, but their eyes are glazed over. Or maybe you are just really asking yourself, "How do I get more corporate clients?" Well, earlier I shared with you my luminary presence framework, and the next thing that you really need to focus on is your positioning. That's what you need to focus on so that you can get those corporate clients. So I'm going to invite you to download Say It So You Get It. And this is my guide so that you can uncover your messaging, where it's leaking leads, so that when you go to those networking events, when you're speaking on stage, when you're typing any copy, people clearly understand what it is that you do, who you serve, how you can help them. That's the kicker, my friends. If they don't know how you help, they can't refer you, they can't hire you, they can't be your biggest advocate to those decision makers. You need to solidify your messaging. And so I want you to download Say It So You Get It. This is going to help you get the corporate clients and so that you are growing your business and making the money that you deserve. This is for you if you are struggling to explain what you do without rambling, like you're tired of rambling over and over again. People seem interested, but they're not taking the next step with you. You're taking the stage, but you're not getting any new clients. Your business is getting overlooked. Your RFPs are getting overlooked. You are tired of sounding vague, generic, just like every other Joe Schmo out there. I want you to download Say It So They Get It. And for those of you that are VIP members, if you're a VIP member, put VIP in the chat. Let's have those VIPs. And it's not too late to get those VIPs. For those of you that are in VIP, you get a one-on-one session with me, 30 minutes, my speaker success blueprint session, where we nail down your core premise and your 3 key teaching points so you have a blueprint that you can use right away. And here's something I want you to remember. In today's world, your expertise is not enough. I'm going to say that again. Your expertise is not enough. The way you communicate, it matters. You all need to be out there speaking. Get in front of those people. You want those corporate clients. You need to be speaking, but the way you communicate it is going to make all the difference. So let's be 9%ers. All of us, every single person in this room, download Say It So They Get It. That's going to be your best start. And I thank you all for being here today. I want you to give me some questions. Bring the questions my way, guys.
Yeah,
Let me stop share.
yeah, I will. Any questions? I know there was a question. I think there was one of the last things I was going to ask of the story that has to be about failure, but I think you answered that. Here's journeys about them. My story, delivering a talk in Germany with a non-native and winning an award, getting there would be what's about them. So maybe Blessed could come on. My story about failures, just even sharing, ladies and gentlemen, that when I lost that $65,000 in an event, it made me see events totally different. It made me create SOPs. It made me create all these other things so that that wouldn't go unnoticed and I wouldn't have that anymore. And so it did build something, right? And so if you can make it relatable, what was it? And it doesn't, even if they've never lost 65 grand, even if none of you ever lose 65 grand, you're never going to relate to that, but you're going to relate to what was I experiencing? What was I feeling? What was I thinking to myself? And how did I get out of that? I had a solution to that. And so now your people have a solution for whatever they're going through.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Erin. And just to
Yeah.
add to that, like it's something I said earlier, remember it happened to you, but you have to make it about them. And you can do that with any story that you provide.
Yep.
I
Okay.
think
Frida.
Frida has a
Frida
question.
has a
Yep.
question.
I do. And I'm not even sure it's a question. It's just an observation that humbled me that qualifications will not get you into the boardroom, will not get you into that room.
You're
And
absolutely right, Frida.
and yet we have to have a mind shift change about that because for the longest time, it was the qualifications that opened the doors. And especially for some of us who are new into this market, you just needed to say my name and your qualifications, and someone would say, okay, come, let's have a conversation. That's how I got most of the jobs when I came to the US 16 years ago. But things have really changed. So I'm wondering how, you can assist people like me who we have the experience, you have the credentials, you have everything, you have the offer, you have books, you have a framework that is trademarked and all of that. But still, cultural differences make me feel hesitant to just go knock at a stranger's door and tell them, oh, hi, I'm Frida. I help leaders because I have noticed decisions drift because that conversation wasn't going the way the executive wanted it to go or the board chair wanted it to go. So I'm out here like I'm in the ocean drowning and it's like, help, SOS.
Yeah, Frida, I will first say one, credentials are important. Like they are, someone, if I'm going to go to a heart surgeon, I really want someone who has experience versus just some Joe Schmo who watched a YouTube video. But we also live in a world where people's attention spans are very short. And the more that we can captivate them and grab their attention, the better. So we still use your credentials, we still highlight those credentials. It's just not how we start our
Right.
signature talks. We weave them in through storytelling. You can talk about, your degrees, or, I always use like the preface of like after 30 years of experience in public speaking. You can weave those in, but storytelling is so much more engaging and powerful than just starting any presentation with, here's my list of credentials.
And I agree. And yet, even that has been a change because I do remember I'm a storyteller. And I do remember having started off, talking about myself through a story. And then I overheard someone behind me saying, oh, there she is with her stories. And it's like, how then am I supposed to show up in a market that sends, conflicting signals? So one audience wants the stories, another one doesn't want the stories. Where do I find the balance?
Frida, also be careful over qualifying. You heard one person say that.
Okay,
One person. And
right.
so also remember, we're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Not
Yeah,
everyone, there's going to be people that we attract and people we don't attract, but don't let one person's comment
okay,
prevent you. And it really could just be the story that you told, and experimenting with that story and meeting with someone to be like, is this a converting story
right.
versus just a general story?
No, I agree. And
Mhm.
I'm learning from that. And that's why I'm asking about balance because that's what I'm trying to find. Because that same story got me a part-time professor position. And so for that person to have said that, but I'm gonna get out of that mindset of I'm new because I'm no longer new when you're 16 years old. You can vote, right?
Exactly. Exactly, Joyce.
So I'm starting to step out of that place of feeling like I'm new. How do I position myself? I'm no longer the new kid on the block. Now, we are no longer in 2008 because
Yeah.
I came in 2010 and that was after the 2008 issue and it was something else. And then came 2020. And so many places where I could hold and say, oh, this excuse, that excuse. But what I'm doing now is repackaging myself before I even repackage my offer and
Yeah.
then putting them together and, putting that in a message, even on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something, Frida, be sure you download that guide. Are you a VIPer?
Um, Not yet.
Go be a VIPer. Go be a VIPer and then
Okay.
sign up for a talk with me and I can help you. But
I have
one
booked an
thing,
op. have booked a spot on your calendar.
Yes. And Frida, I'll
Yes.
tell you this. Carry that confidence with you. You just said something that was beautiful, and you were like, I'm no longer a newbie. Carry
No,
that confidence with you on the stage. Confidence and certainty convert.
You
thank
sure
you.
do. Yes.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
being here. All
Thank you.
right. Well, thank you so much, Alissa. Yes, if you guys haven't upgraded, upgrade. You have that access in the chat. I already put it there. Her freebie is in there as well. Thank you so much for all of this. This is great information. I always love talking about how to tell your story and all the things. So this is great information. Thank you so much, Alissa, for being here and
Thank you, Erin.
sharing your stories with the world as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And you guys enjoy the rest of the summit. Some great speakers are coming up.
I love that. Deborah, I know you had your hand up. If you want to ask a question, we have a few more minutes. Go ahead. Are you good? Okay. See, you're waving. I'm like, okay, she's got it. Well, that was some really good information. I love, listening into your stories. What I always say is the biggest, most important things, the three things to say in your story is something that Alissa covered is just what are you thinking? What were you feeling? And what were you experiencing in your physical body? The reason those stories convert are because they're the human condition. We all have thoughts, we all have feelings, and we all experience things. When I say I was so angry, my fist balled up, my chest was tight, and that vein on my forehead was popping. You've had a moment where you felt that, right? Haven't we all? Right. And so that creates it, whether it's the situation that I was in or you were in, but it's that feeling. And so if they can't connect to the situation, but they connect to those thoughts, feelings, and physical expressions of what's going on in your body, that is the human experience. We've all experienced that. And they go, been there, done that. I get this. This is exactly what I need. And so that's really important to, go through when you're telling your stories. So this is great. Let me have, I was going to bring Jay back up. Or Jay, can maybe spotlight yourself? Because I'm trying to find, oh, there you are. I just couldn't find you there for a minute.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, so what did you think of so far all of these amazing things that we've been talking about? Different ways of getting paid, different ways of speaking, different ways of telling your stories. I mean, this has been some really great information. I know you've been taking notes behind scenes as well. So what have you taken in?
Yeah, I think that the entire premise and all the speakers we're going to have here over these few days is brilliant because it's not only about differentiation, but it's also about different strategies because so many of us think just about getting the talk, and that's the start and end of the engagement. So a lot of these speakers over these few days here are going to be talking about different ways that you can monetize and sell your expertise beyond the talk, as well as getting more talks and getting in the door and strengthening your talk. But I think that's really the key to this is looking at out of the box strategies and proven strategies that you can convert a talk into more long-term engagements, more six-figure engagements, and really scale your business beyond living talk to talk.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important. I mean, the people are out there, and here's the thing, guys, you do have stories. Like that story that I just shared of losing 65,000. My event producer signed on my name to room blocks that I did not sign, and I was on the hook. So when I tell this story, just like Alissa said, as we wait for the other speaker to show up, the knock at the door 15 minutes before I go on stage for my 3-day event. And the guy with the clipboard said, you need to give me $10,000 right now, or we're going to shut down your entire event. And I didn't know what to do. All my money was wrapped in that room. I was just slid down the door, fell to the bottom, and I just said, can you give me to the end of the day? I got to figure out what to do here. I have 15 minutes before I get on stage. And I just sat there and I'm like, I colored myself with Sally Hansen leg paint so you wouldn't see all the hives on my body. I was freaking out, didn't know if I got on stage, would they pull me off stage in the middle of my talk? I didn't know what to do, but I didn't have the time to even process it, right? But like I said at the end, I was able to sell, I was able to overcome, and within 2 months, I was paying that all back and plus some. But at the same time, it was that empty feeling like, oh my gosh, if anyone knew this story, no one would want to hire me as their speaking coach, their business coach. Nobody's going to want me to help them do their events. Like all of that, it just felt like it totally destroyed my credibility. But what it actually did was give me a story that converts and gives me a story that says, even if you feel that far behind, that destitute, sitting on the floor, on the hotel floor like I did, sitting there thinking those things, I found the solution, and I probably can help you find the solution, and we can probably move forward in that. And that is what those stories are about, right? And so it's, don't be afraid of the stories that you think you're afraid to tell. And I see this a lot in the industry. Oh, if I tell this story, it's going to devalue me. People aren't going to see the value in me. People are going to be afraid, whatever. And I will tell you, during COVID, another story was in COVID, I was having a breakdown in the middle of the event, but I went off screen. I was like hiding behind the screen. I had other speakers speaking. So I was like, crying. And I didn't know why I was crying because I'm not a big, huge crier, but I was crying. And I was like, I can't even control my own emotions. How am I supposed to help other people? So I literally passed it off to my business partner at the time, went upstairs, called my coach, had a massive breakdown, realizing that my pain is the pain that my clients experienced. So when I came back, I was supposed to pitch. It was the time of my event. I'm supposed to pitch, and everyone was going to come back from lunch knowing that I was going to pitch. People were already asking me, I want to know about this mastermind. I want to know how to get into it. I want to know. I want to know. And I was like, I sent an email saying, hey, when you come back, I want you to all come back, all cameras on. I'm going to share something I've never shared before, and I'm going to take you through something I've never done before. And so they all came, and I said, I'm not going to pitch you. And so I came back and I really shared. I went straight to camera, shared what I just went through, why I was experiencing it, what it was, because I've gotten past it now. I wasn't speaking from the wound. Look at me. It wasn't that, right? I'm not trauma dumping on my audience. It was, I was having this problem. Look what I did. And when I shared that, the audience actually said, I was already bought into your mastermind, but now I'm 100% in. And I had 100% conversions into an $18,000 mastermind because I shared, and most of them said it was because you're willing to go there. I'm willing to go there. I know that you've understood what I'm going through, so I can go through this, and you can hold my hand and walk me through it. And that's what those stories are. They're not for you anymore. When the story is happening to you, it's happening to you for you to learn from in that moment, but it's not for you forever. After you get to the other side, it's for you to look back and go, who can I help with this story? Who can I move forward with this story? And that's important. So think about those stories that maybe you've never shared before. Those are the ones that actually convert better than any. Look at me in my jet. Look at me in my private boat. Look at me, blah, 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 which is what a lot of speakers do. Look at me. Look at the shiny objects, not look at who I am as a human and how I can help you. So that's been really great.
So first of all, I love that you're talking about masterminds. We're going to talk more about those tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to share my story. And I have a very similar experience. When I started telling my story, I was doing it first of all, I would not reveal a lot of parts of the story that I'm very comfortable talking about now because my story involves guilt and shame. And so when I started telling the story, it was almost for myself, and it was to create, I hate to sort of say it this way, and it certainly wasn't conscious, but I almost felt unconsciously like I'm telling this story so people feel sorry for me or people feel bad for what I went through, right? And it was really an evolution for me to tell the story and keep telling the story and telling it over, and starting to get the feedback that, oh wait, my story is inspiring, like okay, I guess I'll tell more of it, right? And that issue right there of being able to share your story in a vulnerable way, coming to tears if the emotion pulls you there, not fake tears, but if the emotion pulls you there when you're sharing your story. I mean, I now will have I'll share my story in the middle of a presentation, and I'll have people connect with me afterwards, and it's almost like it didn't matter what I said after I shared my story. they were all bought in just based on the story itself. And that's how you earn trust and get open the doors is when you are able to open up and share your stories like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm gonna just open it up right now. She got the wrong room, and I think she's trying to come in here. Oh, yep. Now I'm gonna to make sure I can give her that. But if anybody else wants to, come on and ask a question, maybe you have a story that you've been, kind of hiding from and not wanting to share as we wait for her to get in here. I'd love to hear one. And I'm definitely easy to turn it around and make it into something that does actually move your business. So if you have something, just come up. I want a highlight of the story, not the depth of your story. Just what was the thing that, like, any of those prompts that she had that you wrote down, like, raise your digital hand and let's talk about one while we wait for her to get in here, because I definitely think there are some people that could use some of that. Deborah.
Well, I climbed and crested Mount Kilimanjaro in 2019, and I have used that story. I mean, it is about me, clearly. And the other piece was I got bad water the day before and I was sick as a dog and so forth. So it was interesting. And I made a choice. Okay, go instead of stay and not do it. And so what I attempt to do rather than have it be, oh, this was an interesting thing about Deborah. Is to say, I look at finance as people accumulating money going up the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and then they plateau. And so for all the focus I had on getting to the top, and there was a great deal of that, when I got to the top, we took our pictures and everything. We're coming back down, and I was kind of horsing around with Werner Berger, and I fell flat on my butt. Well, so then I say, and the most perilous time in a person's financial life is when they are on the decline and they are taking money out of that nest egg per se, and they lose the focus, and one bad misstep can cost you about 8 years of retirement income. 8 years. So I interweave that in an effort to not have it be just Deborah got over water,
Yeah.
food poisoning and stuff and crested the mountain.
Yeah.
I'm open to any other suggestions.
Well, I love that. I mean, if you even have a framework that shows them the arc to the top of the mountain and then the pitfalls where they could slip and fall, that would make it engaging, because then it wraps that story as a metaphor into it. And each step up the mountain, here's some things to be thinking about, right? Before you get to the part where you got to start taking that money out, right? I don't want you to slip and fall. So here are the things that I'm going to help you do in your retirement planning and in all of this structure of legacy planning is I want to make sure that you don't slip and fall, right? And so if you could have something like that, I think that would be engaging because it goes along with the story, and it's pretty, I mean, to climb that is pretty awesome. Like, I think that just makes you like, yeah, you're, gold star there. But I love that it takes them on that journey, but then you could show them where they could slip and fall on the mountain, right? Where can they and have no safety net, right? Or no what is it when you're belayed up, like have any of the straps on or whatever, right? So any of that, like having those safety measures, you're helping them build in the safety measures so that they don't
Deborah,
have that, right?
Deborah, I would lean into the slip and fall after you hit peaked at the summit, right? Because that's almost like the unexpected part of the story. Like, not that you slipped and fell on your butt on the way up to the summit, but it was actually after you reached the summit. How many of you have reached the summit and then fallen on your tush afterwards, right? It's that unexpected thing. So I would lean into that part of the story and make that part. And if you can relate that, as Aaron was saying, to your process, your signature, your framework, then all the better.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we got Sheena in the right room. Sorry,
We
Sheena,
do.
I had her in the wrong room for some reason, but I'll let Jay, you go ahead and spotlight her, and I'll tell you about what Sheena's going to bring to us. So Sheena is going to be talking from expert to corporate partner, how to position her IP for speaking, training, and consulting